resolution of September 2019, consenting to a proposed pilot agreement and pilot payment distribution to be provided by the Steuben County Industrial Development Agency in connection with certain wind energy projects to be undertaken by Bearing Winds LLC. Section 2, that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Make a resolution adopted proposal.
Roll call.
Murray.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Kiefer.
Aye.
3 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstains.
Next up, we need to revote for the pilot consent resolution.
The resolution is essentially the same,
Yeah,
exactly the same as what was voted before.
and I don't think
Though I-
this is
though
the
I-
same.
I made a couple of corrections
Yeah.
to some references that I noted that were erroneous to a board of supervisors. It was proposed language from the county IDA that they had requested to use for that pilot resolution. I can read it if you like.
I'd rather
It's not
use the
substantive.
county one because that had the percentages. I don't think this one does. So we can just go ahead and revote
You can revote it
as
as
the way the county's
proposed.
was, yeah.
And maybe what you simply add to that is with the non-substantive direction that will be recommended by the town's
Okay.
council to make sure that we fix any typos or language that the county put in that doesn't quite fit.
How do you want to? We'll pass a resolution based on the county's original
Yeah.
with some non-substantive.
It's essentially based on
Yeah.
the resolution that was voted previously.
I motion that we pass that resolution.
Second.
Roll call.
Kiefer.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Murray.
Aye.
3 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstains.
I do have a quick question for Justin.
Yep.
I have heard through the grapevine that your company is in Cohocton right now asking for a variance to increase the size of the turbines to 600 foot. Is that correct?
650 feet.
Now, how is that going to affect the project?
So we're looking at different design options because the turbines, given that the timing is delayed a year, we're looking at what turbines are available for the 2021 COD. So that means looking at all turbines that are available.
So what will
So-
that do to the Fremont project?
Right now, we are not proposing to increase any turbine heights in Fremont, unless you want to.
Now, are you going to go back to the siting board and redo the whole Article 10?
We will have to make an update to the siting board in order to do that, yes.
Now, how in-depth will that be?
To be determined. It will really depend on the amount of design change that gets made as a result of turbine changes. So as we look at bigger turbines outside of Fremont, they would have bigger rotor diameters,
Bigger
which means
setbacks.
bigger spacing and the setbacks as well. So we're trying to look at the design and try to keep it within the, call it the envelope of what was studied previously. But there's going to be some changes, so.
Now, are you going to relay out everything in Fremont?
Right now in Fremont, we're not proposing to move things because the moving is really as a result of the increase in turbine diameter. So
Now, will that be a whole big year-long process to do the Article 10 again?
They don't have, I guess, strict guidelines on how that process works its way through the system. The normal Article 10 process is a year after your application has been approved. Any changes to the Article 10 application really depend on the scope of those changes, so we think that it should take 4 to 6 months for something like that to be approved. But it really is up to the state.
So did they tell you, no, we don't want you to do this? We want you to stay to
Who?
the state?
No, they didn't say anything like that.
But could they, is what I'm
Oh,
saying? Because this is kind of an amendment to the,
It's not quite an amendment.
it would be like an update to the application. So we would submit the changes, and they would need to review them, and then look at what that means as far as the scope of that overall timeline and the amount of work that we would need to do to update.
And that's just for Cohocton?
That is for Cohocton, Wayland, and Dansville.
You're gonna try to put the larger ones in all of them?
We are looking at that, yes.
That would likely result in a reduction of the number.
It would result in a reduction in number of turbines, yes.
What's the megawatt output of a 650 foot?
5.5 is one of the versions. There's a 5 megawatt, there's a 5.5, depending on which vendor. So a lot of the newer turbines that are coming out for 2021 timeline are that size, 5.5 megawatts.
So you could almost cut the number in half? Or
Yeah,
a
I
third?
think, I mean, it depends. If we assumed across the board, including town of Fremont, that we would be able to do this, yes, but we would not be able to do that, we don't think, in the town of Fremont. I mean, we would be willing to talk about that with the board, but because of that, we would probably have at least 2 different turbines, like we have in the older 2020 layout, that would have 2 different sizes.
What would happen to those? Wasn't there a few turbines already owned or landing in the US? Or a dozen of them or so?
Yeah, they're almost worthless,
Okay,
probably.
just curious.
We're looking at whether we can still use them and be able to make them work somehow, but, we would need to seek some guidance from the IRS as whether that would work or not.
Okay.
So, the way those rules work is you buy them and you have to install them by a certain timeline. So those turbines that would meet those guidelines had to be installed by 2020. We have other turbines that would need to be installed by 2021 that we're looking to potentially use.
Okay.
Can we pause the meeting for a moment?
Sure.
I just need to see Mr. Phelps.
Okay.
You guys called me, so I shouldn't even be here, so. Mr. Phelps, can I speak to you for a second? You're all adults here.
Huh?
Isn't it true with taller turbines, you're looking at louder noises, stronger infrasound, farther distance of disturbance?
Not necessarily. Every turbine, there's not like a rule of thumb, taller is louder, or bigger is louder, or one vendor is louder. Each vendor has a number of designs,
Yeah.
and each vendor, some of these taller turbines are actually quieter because they're newer technology.
Okay.
Could you move them a lot further away from people's houses?
We would still need to follow all the setback requirements in each of the town laws, so a lot of times that would mean moving them further. So when we look at the setbacks that we have, a lot of them are related to the tip height of the turbine. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. So those ones would need, if we had set them, or around the distance from, if it was a house, related to the tip height, and we were close to that setback, we would have to move it, yes.
But could you, basically, since you can put in less, take them out of densely populated areas? and put them where no houses are around?
I mean,
And make the project overall better?
yeah, I mean, because of all the setbacks in each of the towns and the noise regulations that we will follow, you know, we have a pretty small space of land that we can work with. So we look at all those setbacks in each of the towns, we look at what the expected noise impacts would be on each of the receptors, and then it comes up with a, call it like a suitable land area that we can look at. So where can we put, if we wanted to use a taller turbine with a bigger rotor diameter, where would we be able to put those and still meet the requirements that are related to sound, that are related to shadow flicker, that are related to the setbacks in each of the towns.
Now, are the blades just as long, or do they actually get higher and the blades are up off the ground more? Does that make sense?
The blades definitely get longer, the rotor diameter is bigger.
Okay.
But then, yeah, it gets the hub height, you know, where the nacelle is, could get larger as well, because, you know, heavy blades touching the ground.
So excuse me, how high are you proposing they would be?
So we're looking at multiple layouts. The one that we're liking the look of, it would be a total of 612 feet. So we're looking at a 650-foot law for the tip height, but that would be the tip height of one of the proposed layouts that we're looking at.
So they come with serrated blades and?
Yeah, I think pretty much all of them have serrated blades. I mean, some of the vendors, you have to buy them as an add-on, but yes, but we expect them to have serrated blades.
And you'd have to get an amendment for that because we're at the 500-foot level now.
That's right. Yeah, so any change, whether it's 1 foot, could potentially be viewed as a change by the state that we would need to study. So I think the wind farm in Cohocton had that issue when they're looking to repower. They're looking at a tiny increase, and you know, that's viewed as potential change. They have to work through that.
Now,
So-
if you did bring this to us, would you show us a map of exactly where they'd be and or would it just be a blanket?
Are you saying, you know, in a proposal to increase the tip height in Fremont, or are you saying?
If you guys were to come to us and ask us to increase the tip height,
Yeah.
would you show us a map of exactly where they'll be and the impacts to everyone?
We could do that.
Or
I have.
like what it would reduce and like if you
Yeah,
like save a lot of houses from noise
Yeah.
by doing this?
yeah, I mean, we think that it ends up being a better thing for the community because you have fewer turbines,
Mhm.
you have fewer impacts. They are taller, but they're not
There's not
double
as
the
many.
size, they're a little bit taller, and there's fewer, so, and it's a newer technology machine.
And how is that gonna change pilot programs and things like that?
So all the pilot is, you know, it's related to megawatts, so if we kept the same total megawatts, for the overall project, the pilot payments are essentially the same. As well, it relates to megawatts, it just depends where they are.
I got a question. I know the board's asked several times for it. As far as I know, you guys still haven't given the manufacturer's recommended setbacks for abnormal use. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to, the manufacturer's recommended setback for abnormal use?
Yes. If the blade's on fire, anything along that line. The board's asked for it many times, and to date, they still haven't gotten that.
I've never seen that.
Well, I know
It's part of our law.
Councilman
Okay.
Smith had just a regular
I mean, I've
one
never
from
seen
what,
that
2013?
A turbine manufacturer, maybe that,
We
is
had
it
the
normal?
old Nordex one.
Nordex has one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you saying there is no manufactured setback for abnormal use?
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I haven't seen that, but
Okay.
but maybe it is something that,
I mean, they've asked for it several times. I don't know, wouldn't they be in violation of the PIP since you guys have asked for it so many times?
Also the aerial view.
Are there any more questions or comments from the audience on the HCA road use agreement or seasonal limited?
Are you guys planning on passing it tonight?
That's in front of us to pass.
I mean, there's so many issues, like I just brought that one up. We've got Chip threatened to apply for the waiver for the well testing.
Can we talk about that?
What's gonna be done with that?
There's any decisions on that?
We don't like it.
Yelled at that.
It would be very expensive, probably.
Get the money.
And, but it's currently what is in the final order, so.
But if it's in the order and you guys are threatening to go for a waiver, then that's one of the things that was in our law, then we would lose that if they ruled in your favor.
Yes, that's true, but.
So we should have,
We haven't made a decision as to whether or not we are for sure pushing forward with that or not.
then we should have language in there. That's why it probably shouldn't be passed tonight. We should have language in there basically stating that if they do, and I don't know if it's legal or not, maybe Seth could answer that, you know, if they do apply for a waiver, then the town would need more money to test the wells themselves. I mean, can you tell us, Justin, how many wells you're actually talking about in that 3,500 feet?
I can see anywhere from 60 to 70.
60 to 70.
So any of the landowners have their own paperwork if they are responsible landowners. They tell you exactly where every well is. It's not a difficult task.
What's the exposure? Like, why would there be exposure to a well?
They wouldn't.
Yes, there would
Exposure
be.
As far as an impact?
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm.
You're not going in the ground, you're not
these
drilling for
these
gators.
foundations are 8 to 9 feet deep, so it's
Yeah.
not that different.
Sure
than
they are.
most
You're
foundations.
talking about when water goes through, comes up through shale, we have a ton of shale around here. These footers are 500 yards of concrete, correct?
But are you saying that there's a?
I'm
chemical-
saying if you dig one of these things even close to an aquifer, it could affect many homes, it could contaminate it, concrete cracks, it's full of carcinogens. You've got vibrations from these things. I believe some of the foundations are cracking in Cohocton. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And I know people's wells have gotten destroyed.
I mean, a lot of us, you know, my well, I believe, is 30-something feet. My neighbor's is even less. If you're digging down 10 feet, basically, for a footer for 500 yards of concrete, if you're even close, because one of the turbines you're putting in is going up right toward my neighbor's where his well comes from up in a field. So there's a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, they're all on the top of our
So
hill.
that's why we wanted the well testing to have a baseline, and it protects you guys too. So someone just doesn't say, hey, my well's bad. You have proof and documentation.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, these are not chemicals that we're pumping 1,000 feet deep into the aquifer. These are a foundation that is 8 to 9
Yeah, but
feet
just,
deep.
when you're building on shale, it's a rock.
Right, well, we dig basements deeper than that, I mean.
Yeah, but you're on top.
But you're
of the
talking about a
hill.
multitude. How many turbines are we talking now? 28 turbines or more?
Yeah,
30?
I could show, how big of a circumference when you're digging the foundation?
I mean, 500 yards of concrete would fill this room, just to give anybody an
I mean,
idea.
We're taking earth out
Yes,
and putting concrete in, so it's not like we're just adding concrete to the.
that's right, and concrete cracks. I've got 30 years of experience on construction. It's just full of carcinogens. There's new OSHA rules on cutting it, jackhammering it, everything now.
Okay.
It's all
We haven't made a
carcinogens.
final decision on that. We're looking at it. It would be an expensive burden for the project to do that.
So I'm just saying the board should have language in there that if they decide to go for a waiver, that the town should somehow be getting money to test these themselves. So I got another issue, and I brought it up many times back when Bob Osborne was supervisor, and that is in regard to these good neighbor agreements. And I've asked before, how is that even legal? And my understanding is when you look through what Judge Costello had ruled, basically the town is liable for these good neighbor agreements. And I've always questioned that. How can a company come into a town and by virtue of just having somebody sign a contract, you can waive all zoning board rules, all planning board rules, all town board rules? And according to what Judge Costello read, unless I interpreted it wrong, the town's liable for that. So that's another issue. The town's going to start getting sued for that. I mean, these are just a few, you know, that I've looked at here just recently. I mean, other issues I've got concerns, the last 2 years